Hi, my name is Michael Gargiulo. I'm the morning news anchor for Today in New York on WNBC, Channel 4 here in New York City, and 1981 graduate of NYU. Well, I remember how I knew I was in college, which was I studied Russian in high school, and I thought I was hot stuff because I studied Russian at Xavier High School, and I thought it was pretty sharp. So I signed up for Russian here when I went to my classes, and I didn't sign up for the introductory Russian because I'm like, well, I took Russian for, I think, 2.5 years at Xavier, so I figured I'd go right in the intermediate class. I remember I went into my first class, and the professor, I'll never forget it, her name was Professor Maturina. She's probably not around anymore. And I went into the class, 17 years old, because I was a young freshman, and terrified. Like, I had no idea what anybody was talking about. And that's how I knew I was not in high school anymore. That was my introduction to NYU. I was a history major, and I was a German minor, which, you know, has many applications in the world of culture, not a lot in the world of business. Being in college is great because you're with fellow students and you're talking about your dreams and plans for the future, but it's when you get out of school you really have to figure out what you're going to do. And I really didn't know. I got out of school and I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. And I did like a lot of college students. I had different jobs over the years, each of which would combine something that I was interested in. I worked for a Luxembourg-based steel company as just an office assistant because I liked international things. I spoke some German, which I had learned, and then I realized that it wasn't quite what I wanted to do. And then I tried working in the entertainment field, and I realized that, well, that wasn't what I wanted to do. And then I took a aptitude test on 14th Street and 6th Avenue, and it was they give you the three aptitude tests, the classic test. One is, I think, called the strong aptitude test, and I forget what the other two were. And when the person finished, she said, "Okay, you should be a television news reporter." And I'm like, well, I hadn't thought of that. Many of the stories that are dominating the news are started on the social media sites, started on non-traditional media sites, and you know, there's no judgment that you can make because there's no turning back. The technology is the technology, and it exists. And whether it's people putting stories out on Facebook, like someone was telling me, Sarah Palin has like 60,000 Facebook friends, so she puts something out and automatically there's a huge audience. Or whether people are watching things off of YouTube, or whether people are twittering news events. You know, look, I think it's great. The more news, the better. The more places people can get their news, the better. You know, I think as a working journalist, what people hope is that they understand that as a professional journalist, we try to adhere to a certain set of standards before we report and deliver the news. And a lot of times, just taking anything off the internet, off anywhere, you have to understand that that may not be delivered with the same degree of accuracy that you might get in the so-called traditional media that people get so upset about. We have digital channels now. We have a website that we devote a lot of time, money, expense, and attention to. And we're trying to branch out and be things to all people, you know. And that, look, you can listen to 880 News Radio, CBS, and 1010 Wins anywhere in the world now online, and I think that's a good thing. The thing when you pursue a career in journalism, and I came late to it because I came to it at the age of 24 and I didn't have the traditional training that kids get today, is don't listen to people my age. That's my advice to you. Don't listen to me. No, but I do mean it in a sense because I think a lot of journalists, when you listen to them, they're very nostalgic for what they see as the golden age. You know, back in the day when if you got a job at a big city newspaper, a big city TV station, big city radio station, you were set for life and it was all set. Yes, those days are over. It's not the same. But like I said, I grew up in television. My father worked at a time when there were just 3 television networks. So everybody got a third of the American people, and you had enormous power and influence. And when I started in television, and it was different from that, it was interesting because he was like, what's with these cable companies and stuff like that? Well, you know, now the distinctions are totally changed again. There's a lot of opportunities. There's opportunities in ways that didn't exist before. You have to pay your dues, but not in the same way that I paid my dues or people before me paid my dues. And there's a ton of great opportunities now. And what you just have to do is realize that yes, the business is changing. Who I may work for may change. It may not be the traditional work for the TV station that I grew up watching, but there's great opportunities. Journalism can be a great field. You just have to go into it and realize it's different from your friend who's going to be an attorney, or different from your friend who's going to be a doctor or an accountant. That's the one thing that stayed the same. You know, you're going to get out of NYU and you're going to go to work maybe for a website somewhere, or go to work at a local television station, maybe in Huntington, West Virginia, and make a third of what they're making as an attorney. But you're going to also have the opportunity to do a lot of things that maybe they're not going to have to do. And it's really what you put into it. You have to really make use not only of the changing technology, but of the idea that now, the good thing about this changing technology is it allows people to really do things that they don't have to play by the old rules. You want to go and say, I'm really interested in India. You can go to India with the camera you're recording me right now, shoot news stories, get them to news organizations, and end up with an interesting career that's a non-traditional career. And I think that's great. So I encourage people to go ahead and pursue it and not be deterred by stories that say, well, you know, all the journalism in the future is just going to be free journalism voluntarily put up by people. I don't think that's going to be the case. I have many favorite spots in New York City. Growing up, my favorite spot in New York City was always Rockefeller Center. Because, and I'm not just saying it because I work at WNBC, although when I was growing up in my life I said, gee, it'd be great to work in that building, and I do it now. But I always thought that was the most special place. I always thought that Rockefeller Center was just such a most beautiful place, especially around the holidays. It was so fantastic. And it was great. It was just great to be there, and it's great to work there now. But I have tons of great spots. I get emotional when I see the Williamsburg Bridge. So But I do have to say one quick thing. Just as someone who's come back to NYU after so many years, I mean, I think the school is fantastic now, and I think the school has been able to do something that they were on maybe the road to doing when I was here, which is to really make a campus down here. You know, when I was here, there were buildings that housed NYU, and we were students here. But really, once we walked out onto Green Street or walked past Washington Square Park, NYU fell off pretty quickly back then. Just the physical campus, not the education. But I think now what's great is there's a certain energy to being down here now that I think is fantastic, and it's like a lot of other college campuses, and the best part is a college campus in New York City, and it's a college campus in a really great part of New York City, and I think that's fantastic.